That was a weird craze.
I do. I actually, last week I was watching those at work. It's pretty funny that you mentioned them.
Oh, also, did you see or did any of you guys see? I can't remember his name, but one of the D&D Wizard of the Coast guys, his initiative system that he put out.
I did.
Matt Colville.
It was pretty interesting.
Colville mentioned it, but he wasn't the one that put it out.
Was it
Yeah,
Merle's?
I saw Colville's video. Yeah, he was talking about Merle's. He had some
Merle's
Merle's tweets that he was showing. Yeah.
How did it go? I didn't really get a chance to watch it because I've been getting ready.
I mean, it was basically, depending on what you were doing, you rolled a different die, and then you would re-roll it every single turn.
So, like spell casting, you'd roll a d12 because that takes the longest. If you're doing a melee attack, you roll like a d4 because that's the quickest, and ranged attack.
It depends on what. Yeah, and Colville's basic idea was he would swap that around a little bit. So, like different level spells, you might use different dice so that like it reflects how complex the spell is, and you want to do it so that depending on what weapon you're using, you might use a different dice. Like a dagger would be a D4.
So like speed ratings from advanced.
12. Yeah.
Right.
But with dice, the size of the dice being representative of the speed.
Yeah.
Cool.
And difficulty of the action, right. And then he also added a movement component. So if you want to move, you roll another dice, and so you take the sum of the movement roll plus the sum of the action roll to determine your action.
Right. I think
his argument is that it makes for more strategic play. I'd like to see it in action. It sounds pretty cool.
I wouldn't mind trying it sometime in like a short one shot with some friends just to test it out before I, commit to a whole game like that.
For sure.
But it seems interesting. Okay.
All right. I haven't even actually left yet. But are you guys? Do I have time to leave real quick, or were you doing something?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably just repeat the things I was just saying a moment ago. So yeah, hold on.
Run, Kevin, run!
Run before something happens. All right, be right back.
Rick and Morty season 3 trailer. Rick as a pickle. Awesome.
Yeah. And it looks like it's the
Prickle?
Rickle?
A prickle. That's even better.
Okay. So let's do this again. So in the initial Roll20 con of last year, Hawk, Iden, Killian, and Eldythis came together to defend a town called Howlerton. After completing the defense of that town against the bandits known as the Fellhoods, that group traveled to the town of Hilton. Iden had a contact in Hilton named Clacker and Riverwild, who he wanted to connect with and find out what the goals of the Aegon Commonwealth were in that town. Primary goal for them was to deal with missing people who were mostly missing children who were disappearing in the town. The next day, after Eldythis had a vision of treachery and split in a river, the group found that the magistrate of the town had found 2 dead bodies in the river, and it looked like it was a double suicide between 2 lovers, one a noblewoman and one a peasant man. But as the group investigated more into this, with the help of a Dr. Ito in the town of Hilton and Fark Ashbeard of the magistrate's guard, they learned that it was in fact actually a homicide perpetrated by an individual known as Cherry Eater, a member of the Fellhoods himself, but also kind of a bit of a merchant as well. It seemed that he was in league with a group known as the Heirs of Laviston, led by one Mylon Vermont, son of Mary Beth Vermont, and they stopped Mylon from assassinating the lord of the town during a festival, directly, but it did seem that was their goal when they raided their secret castle to the north of Hilton and destroyed the heirs of Laviston there. It seemed they had plans to attack him during a festival known as the Shackling. Through their quick justice, which they meted out on the heirs, they then returned to town and dealt with some goings on before the Shackling. During that festival, 2 individuals entered into the town. According to Iden, who recalled some information regarding them, one was known as Asilius Gant, and the other was known as Kjörn. They were renowned assassins who were quite competent in their abilities. When they learned a bit more about the 2's presence in the town, they ended up going to Clackern to attempt to get some information from him, and learned that the assassins had already dealt with the Aegean Commonwealth agent. And then also, that situation then also led to the appearance of a mysterious entity that had been seen prior to that date, just following these individuals about the town. The entity was a small, meek woman in a dark cloak with red hair that would spill out of her hood. And when she appeared to them in the shop, she had said to Iden, if I would give you one thing, what would it be? And he wished for Clackern to be restored to health. She brought Clackern back to life, but all for naught, because they eventually ended up in the basement of that shop. Asilius and Kjörn in the top portion of that shop, and they were boarded off from exiting the shop out of the basement, and the building above them was set afire. Clackern died in the process, and the others almost did as well, if not for the mysterious appearance of a wizard who manifested in a very strange fashion, the wizard's name being Cardiff. A very strange wizard indeed. They escaped the basement and found their way back out and attempted to stop Asilius and Kjörn from assassinating whoever it was they were here to assassinate. But too late, too little too late. While Iden and Hawk dealt with, or was it Iden and, I don't have that notated. While 2 of the adventurers attempted to stop them up on a hill, Asilius was able to get his shot off and kill Ian Haverhill, the target of his assassination attempt.
To confirm, it was Iden and Hawk.
It was Iden and Hawk, correct. And then Mel and Zell were down there at the scene of the death, and Cardiff was as well. They attempted to stop Asilius from escaping on foot, but he was able to elude you, while Kjörn was certainly able to elude because no one actually followed him up at the top. After the death of Ian Haverhill, the group kind of fell into a bit of an ennui and didn't know exactly what they were to do. They kind of learned, too, that there was another adventuring group in the area known as the Silverfangs, which had ties to Anton Haverhill. And Gwenvalia Silverfang, the leader of that group, she had a young girl in her charge, a redheaded woman named Lena Albacoris, who did not hide her nobility well. It seemed the group was quick to catch on to the fact that she was a princess of a kingdom to the east, or to the west. There was a weirdness about her, and when Cardiff attempted to cast magic to try and see or learn more about this weirdness, he was teleported away from the group. Through use of a device that they acquired, they were able to scry his location and learn that he was near the city of Stormloft, about to be attacked by Felhood bandits. They weren't able to follow up as to what was happening with him at that point, but they left in haste and moved towards what is known as the Dwarf Road in the Coalbeard Mountains. The south portion of the Coalbeard Mountains hosted the door to the Dwarf Road, which headed to Coalbeard Mountain itself in the northern portion of that grouping of mountains and connected to the city of Stormloft. Unfortunately, it was infested with an aboleth and its foul minions, mysterious aberrations with tendrils and tentacles very confusing, very disgusting, and just alien creatures. The entity manifested itself again in the form of bringing Cardiff the Young to the party. So a new Cardiff was brought to them, a younger version of Cardiff. Unfortunately, from what the group could remember, this younger version of Cardiff died in a heroic fashion while fighting the Aboleth. And to all the characters' memory, the Aboleth actually was defeated. Later, it was learned that it was actually not defeated. What had happened is it was put to a critical state and entered a larval state and entered into Zelbor, where it held itself in a stasis to try and regrow itself. All right, that's when we took a hiatus during the winter months due to Christmas, me getting married, the like. Also situations that arose therein. We started the New Beginnings campaign shortly thereafter in January, I think. The Fellhoods were causing problems in the city of Stormloft where they had arrived. Hawk attempted to grow as a magistrate in that city, but much to his chagrin, the servants of Blackhand kept him down. The Conglomerate was also present. Iden attempted to fight them in a Aegon Commonwealth versus Conglomerate battle behind the scenes. Zelbor and Malik, who had entered the group, I guess I didn't mention that, they entered the group after Killian and Eldaithus left. Killian's body left, really. Killian was killed during the fight against the heirs of Laviston, and Eldaithus took the corpse back to his homeland in Seaguard. A little bit of a retcon there I forgot to mention. I don't know why it's an important part. Mel and Zell were actually the two other adventurers that traveled with Iden and Hawk through those points. In the New Beginnings, Mel and Zell were living at large. Mel started a temple to his goddess, and Zelbor became a bit well known in the tavern and in scene in Stormloft. Quite popular bard, to say the least. Then the Fellhoods and the Conglomerate started to kind of focus in more on the Aegon Commonwealth and succeed in their combats. Iden, wounded, ended up on the door of Mel and Zell's house in the Northrun district of Stormloft, and they became entangled with the Conglomerate at that point, being forced to leave the town, head to the northern portion, where they met up with the Scout Tegan, Conservator Cassandra, and Warden Sandor, members of the Aegon Commonwealth. Right. Then they, through assistance of the Lord in the town, actually, rewind. They quested out of the town, not knowing where to go. They found some hill giants, and they also found another version of Cardiff inside of the camp there before they got to the hill giants. Back up a bit. An older version of Cardiff who died in the camp. They traveled outside of Stormloft, entered into the forest there, fought some hill giants, and found the real Cardiff that they knew. For some reason, having been kind of kept out here in the woods, word for them leading out that way is that he had been traveling with merchants for some reason. When they rescued Cardiff, another entity appeared, this one with blonde hair, who directly spoke to Hawk and asked what he wanted most. And she leaned to try and suggest that he would want Cardiff to be brought to justice for some transgression that was left kind of vague. The breaking of the arch, which Zelbor later learned more about. But he didn't opt to go with that, instead deciding to deal with a very common enemy for the group, known as Dante Blackhand, leader of the Fellhoods, and the entity deposited his corpse before Hawk's feet. They then went back into town with a bit more of confidence that they'd be able to deal with the problems there. As they entered town, the conglomerate's presence in the town was seen to have waned, and they left in their airships. And it seemed that the Fellhoods were also directing most of their attentions towards the North Ron district instead of the entirety of the town. They wanted to learn more about why that was the case, but they also wanted to get Hawk into a position that he could start bringing these people to justice. So they coordinated with a lord that they were directed to by Groose, who was also in the town. Groose being an NPC they'd met during the Heirs of Laviston issue, a adventurer just like them. And they then coordinated a plan to give Hawk some notoriety and reputation by doing things that righting wrongs that plagued the town. The first of these was going into the north and fighting a ogre mage known as Renka. Unfortunately, the three associates of the Talnamri that they had met in the town had already gone to try to fight that ogre magi, and they were defeated. Sandor lived. Looked like Sandor was split in two, and Tegan was left pretty much daunted by the whole affair. When they entered back into town, they learned more that the North Ron district focus was intentional. It seemed that they were attempting to muscle in on a archaeologist and historian known as Jonathan Hoppler, because he had the key to some sacred old temple of the Vazriel people. They moved to investigate. Meanwhile, Cardiff was kind of losing his mind in the house of Melanzel, and summoned a copy of Lena Albacoris from somewhere else, who has been staying with Cardiff since that point. She seems to know things about the world, but she knows them wrong. Whereas, for example, the lord that they spoke with was Donovan Adalbert, but she knew him as Dundon Adalbert, something to that effect. I can't remember the exact names. I don't have them written down, unfortunately.
That's what I have. That's what I have written down.
Pretty good memory on my part, then.
Yep.
So she remembered things slightly wrong. Everything was just kind of off. So Cardiff was charged with protecting Lena, and the others were charged with protecting Hoppler. And they decided that they would go into this old temple and find out what it was there, and perhaps bring some more notoriety to Hawk in his goal of becoming captain of the watch of the city of Stormloft. They went in, they dealt with some drow in the entrance, investigated the dungeon, and in the end, after solving a number of very difficult puzzles and engagements therein, released entity known as the Shame of Albacoris. Upon its release, an entity, much like the blonde entity and the red-headed entity, appeared with black hair to try and stop the Shame from exiting this place. But it exited nonetheless, having destroyed the entity upon its exit. It seemed to stop at the place that the group found to be their kind of end goal, the door with the beholder upon it. And upon leaving, seemed to have deposited a beholder corpse from the place, and it left. Hoppler was very confused by the entirety of the events and was trying to piece these things together. It seemed that he was just in a note-taking frenzy upon the last time you saw him. But the group returned back to town. And very shortly after entering into the town, Iden would have vanished with little to no word, except that he took Hawk aside. And when he did, I'm going to be Hawk, and Hawk, I'm sorry, I'm going to be Iden, and Hawk, you're going to be Hawk.
All right.
All right. He pulls you aside, and he kind of looks you in the eyes, and he says, I don't know what you've unleashed upon the world. But I do know that if we're going to stop it from whatever its goals are, we have to be powerful. You have your operation to uphold. You want to do what you want to do. And I tell you, I already have a seat of power. And as he says that, he shifts his form to look exactly like Dante Blackhand.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he says, with Dante's voice, I am the leader of the Fellhoods. We will not be a problem to you. Do you understand?
Hawk nods.
And if you need assistance from us at any time, we will be your dagger in the night. And with that, he shifts back into the form that you saw him in, Bill, the guard, and he leaves.
Okay. So the Fellhoods now work with the town, or with Hawk, and presumably the town guard.
Correct. Okay, so that said, kind of just put that into your head. I'm going to do a quick prelude and workup for Boo.
Hold on, can you repeat that whole thing? I missed all of it.
I've got it recorded this time.
Good one.
Let's see what you did though. That was about 27 minutes of me just rambling on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was a good summary.
It was a good review.
Yeah.
There was something that we all forgot.
I'm glad he skipped all the stupid things Mel did. And that temple. And you didn't even mention one thing. Maybe it's not really the case. Maybe you changed your mind on what happened.
No. So I'm going to do an individual kind of synopsis of where you're at and what's going on in your life right now. That's next. But first, we're going to start with a character who has nothing so far and no lead up to where he's at. That would be Boo. So, looking at your character sheet, again, you don't have much written down for the character as a whole, but I do kind of want to build him backstory with you right now, Zach. If that's okay. If you're still here, you might have just tuned me out.
Nah, dude, I was playing with my cat while you were doing the thing, and I had to unplug my headset to play with the kitten. And as soon as you said boo, I was like, oh yeah, I need to put my headset back on, and ran back. So I'm here. I'm good.
Okay. So basically, we're just going to kind of work together to kind of just build you up to where you're at.
Fuck yeah.
Now, all I've got to go on so far is you're kind of a middle ground wild elf who happens to also be like a city bounty hunter. So my thoughts on that are wild elves kind of come in a couple of varieties in the campaign setting. Wild elves aren't typically ones to form enclaves. More or less, they just kind of work like human tribes, and then they kind of hunt, gather as they please. But some of these wild elves end up in cities and are sometimes referred to as sewer elves. And how they operate is they effectively are gutter snipes or sell swords, toughs, what have you, who kind of deal out of the bottoms of cities. These are a bit more rare, but when they enter into a city or they enter into a place, they're kind of there for life or until they're rooted out by what have you, the law enforcement or group of adventurers, what have you. Right. So my thought on this is Stormloft is a big city and it has a lot of sewers. So what I was thinking is that Boo might have kind of been risen up in the bowels of Stormloft, but because of capacity and efficiency, he has been able to kind of rise up above that and has formed effectively a guild of hunters, bounty hunters, job takers, who have been kind of more used by the nobility and less so by peasantry. It's no longer about being able to kind of get the jobs that you can. It's more about people are coming to you all the time. That's my starting point.
I like it.
But I do have a really cool twist I want to put in there. So the reason why you're no longer doing that is because it came to a point where your brother, Jin, so you have a pretty much twin brother whose name is Jin.
Okay.
He was it was always you and him back to back dealing with jobs.
Can we make him a cousin that was born at the exact same time as me
Yeah.
instead of a twin? So it's like neighboring families, but not that close. Like we weren't raised together, but always pitted against each other, like family to family. I like that rivalry a little bit better.
Effectively,
Personally.
like forced to be like brotherly, but
Right,
not
but
really.
we're not actually like we don't share parents. Like my father and his mother are siblings.
Okay.
But like we were born almost the same day. So because of that, like we've always been pitted one next to the other.
That's fine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Instead
fine.
of doing twins are cliche.
They are. Kinda. You're right.
Thank you.
You're not wrong.
It's a little bit more
I mean-
in depth of a relationship if it's a like close family member, but not that close.
So more of a family force rivalry instead of a
Correct. Which
blood.
also means like his siblings could work for him and my family gets that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It gives you more relationships to play with than
Fair.
twins.
Well, he might not be someone they work for anymore. Here's why. So, like towards the end of your relationship, what ended up happening is the Fellhoods kind of started muscling in on your gig, and you weren't for it. You were about independence, but he ended up taking their side. But you knew that the majority of the people in your clan were not really okay with being kind of turned over to these lesser people, because you're elves and they're not. But he went for it and got a decent amount of the group to kind of go with him in that regard. But everybody on your end of it said, we're not going to do this anymore unless he's out of the picture. And it came down to a showdown between you and him, in which he, if you want, in some way kind of scarred you, if not completely bested by you, but you mortally wounded him and are pretty certain he died. But the problem is after the conflict, like very much like during the conflict, the Fellhoods maneuvered on you, and at this time would have been allied with the conglomerate. And you knew this wasn't a fight worth fighting. It was a fight you needed to get out of town for. So you exited town and tried to kind of keep yourself away from the city, but have maneuvered yourself back over the last couple of months back to the outskirts of town, trying to kind of find any kind of work you can just to make a living, just to get food, just to get a roof over your head. So you've been taking jobs as like a guide. You've been taking jobs as kind of a guardian for merchant caravans moving between Stormloft and Bruce. And you've just been taking odd jobs where you can get them.
Okay.
And that's where we stand. You do know that your brother, I mean, from all knowledge that you have, not your brother, sorry, your rival,
cousin, yeah,
is dead. You killed him.
Got it.
But you do know that everybody that was on your side is also dead. And the people who remain of your tribe are now ingratiated into the Fellhoods.
Okay.
Cool.
On the
All
bright side, your rival would be raised by a Demilich, and you're going to kill him again.
Feel free to pen that out however you'd like. Again, if you want to make twists and changes to it, it just basically something I kind of milled up while I was at work.
No, I kind of like it. I will elaborate a little bit more for
Absolutely.
you, and if you want, I can throw a few more characters into the story
Absolutely.
for you to play with further down the line.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board. Just
Awesome.
framework to hang real story upon. Okay.
I'll write that up. Probably not tonight, but before next week.
Perfectly fine.
Easy.
Let's move on to the next cool kid. So Hawk, when you entered back into the town, one of your first stops was with Donovan Adalbert. You kind of wanted to make sure that he understood where you've been and what's happened. He told you that he would put his best historians onto this shame of Albacoris, and he'd also send missives to the kingdom of Sorrowgate, where the Albacoris reign, to ensure he knew exactly what to expect from this entity. The letters should be back shortly enough. some magical means may be employed to try and get this information across the provinces. But he notices the change in you. He notices that you're no longer Hawk, the soldier, the grunt. It seems that something has kind of changed about your characteristics, to be sure. And he makes sure that you are kind of accompanied by a scribe and historian into the libraries of Stormloft Keep. And the reason for this is to learn more about the sword that you have, and also learn more about you as it stands. Several days are kind of spent going over the tomes, the lineages, the histories here, and they learn a bit about the sword. Dias Centina. It seems that this term Dias is an old term that stands for guardian or defender, and it would seem that these swords may be representative of a group of 7 maidens, battle maidens, nuns, if you will, who had different religions that they followed internally, but they all represented one common goal, and that was the defense of the world against what are known as the sins of the world, or the demons of the world. The sword that you have seems to be charged with the defense specifically against corruption, and it would seem that it has a very pure hatred from the oath that you took against the shame of Albacorus, which you know now as Gideon Albacorus. Definitely questions arise about Gideon while you're in these histories as well, and they definitely do some research, but let's finalize with the Dias. They state in the information that they give you that there are 7 of these weapons, and that are 7 of these saints rather, and it would seem that they all came together in their end to create a defense against the world thereafter, the demon world. And there's a shrine built to them near a place known as Ragnell's Grove, which is in the province and in your kingdom, and shouldn't be too hard to find. It's on the map. We go ahead and pull that. I don't have it up yet, so we'll get that here in a bit. But yeah.
You're saying that's in Parnak?
Correct. It's in Stormloft Kingdom, more precisely. Yeah. So it shouldn't be too hard to make a journey over to that way if it is your dream or goal to do so. The other thing they find out is that you, Hawk, actually before even the change in you, actually had elves in your line, deep in your line, but in your line nonetheless. And it would seem that, according to everything that they kind of point to you, you are actually of noble birth, a noble station. Mind you, it's a dissolved noble house, but a noble house nonetheless. It would seem that your nobility actually stems from the Duchy of Adalbert. So very strange happenings, you coming to serve, in essence, Duke Adalbert in this regard. Quite fortuitous, to be sure. But the name that comes to you in this lineage, this noble name, it's foreign to you. You've never heard it before, and it's not one that you can recall any member of any house being of. But the house name is Meredith.
Cool.
It would seem that the Meredith line, according to what you were told by the scribe and historian, is that the Merediths were a servant house underneath an individual named Ryan, R-I-A-N, who is actually, you recognize the name Ryan, it being that of a famous noble lord who many songs have been written about. He helped defeat a large grouping of creatures who had entered into his kingdom and tried to take it over. I'll get you the song before next session to be sure. regarding Ryan. And Adalbert is also able to bring your case to the Council of Lords regarding your desire to become captain of the watch. And sure enough, you take that position with no competition from any others who are seeking the position. Current captain of the watch is found out to be a Fellhood. This is done through sources that you have. Since you know everyone who happens to be a Fellhood, and it's very easy for you to become the captain of the guard for the city of Stormloft. Okay. Any questions for me before I move on?
Oh,
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
there you go.
Nothing. Okay. So that span of time would have been about 3 months. Okay. So, moving on to the next. I think that's all my notes for Hawk. Oh, the sword, a real quick note. The sword isn't sentient, by the way. So it's not like you're able to have communications with the sword. It definitely does emit emotions, though, after the first oath. So, like, it seems to have a very similar emotional pattern to you. So, when you kind of see wrongdoing while you have the sword equipped, you can kind of feel it doubly so because the sword's equipped. It seems like your sense of right is the same thing that the sword has. I would assume so, based solely on your history so far with the character.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So there were seven saints. Are there 7 swords?
So there's nothing in the histories that states that's the case, but there were 7 saints. Bear with me here for a second.
Mhm.
Get my notes on that. Should have figured you'd ask, but yeah. Do.
Look at all my notes. Got notes for days.
Notes in. Did he mention he has notes?
Beautiful.
I have all the notes.
Huge.
They're the best
I
notes.
have the greatest notes.
Everybody said so.
Nice.
New York Times
Okay.
wrote about it once. Put it on New York Times bestseller list. Best
So
notes.
there are a total of 7.
Or, you know,
of
just
the-
write your own New York Times.
Also true. Yeah. Just throw it up on your walls. Yeah. There are a total of 7 of these saints. Dias Alrindel, brain. Maybe should drink more. Yeah. Dias Evelyn, Dias Falma, Dias Melura, Dias Sentina, Dias Umbrosa, and Dias Vectra. I'll type those up. Hold on.
That little known 8th saint is Dias Rhea.
Oh, wow. You're on fire, Kevin.
That was pretty disgusting and great.
So is the butthole of whoever that happens to be. Okay. So another thing that you would note in your study of this, especially if you ever relay this information to Mel in your group, is that there's an entity in the beliefs of the people who kind of worship demons, that there's an entity known as the Diasthai that guards the gates of hell, effectively, from being opened and spilling out into the world. And not much is known about the Diasthai, but many regard him as this kind of amalgam form of every single greatest hero and defender in history. That's how it's kind of seen. But again, if it's real or not, or if it's just a mythical thing, is not for sure. You're pretty sure that these saints existed because you're holding one in your hand.
Okay, so there are possibly 7 swords.
There are possibly 7 swords. Correct. All right. Kevin, are you still there?
I am there.
Okay. Any other questions before I move, Andy?
Nope, thanks.
All right. So, Kevin, you, after returning into town, kind of focus more on kind of getting yourself centered, because all throughout the trip home, you've been having these very strange dreams, water dreams, but not in a good way.
Yeah, they're not wet dreams. They're just water dreams.
They're not Mel leaks.
Oh man, we're good here.
Wow.
I like almost hate all of you a little bit.
Hey, I would like to say I've only made one bad pun.
And he's the one that normally does them too, you know.
Yeah, you're right.
True.
We're waiting for you. You're just getting warmed up, I think.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the opportunity.
So these water dreams have been very turbulent. It feels like you're kind of being roiled within a sea, but every time the dream kind of ends the same way. You're in a maelstrom. You're in the center of just a cyclone of water being funneled down into blackness, an unending spiral straight into complete and absolute dark. These dreams aren't so bad initially. You wake up in kind of a slimy sweat, kind of just disgruntled by it. But you keep it to yourself, and for some reason, in this regard, even Zelbor isn't really able to kind of get the information out of you. In this regard, where Mel is normally kind of just more open and more kind of just someone who can be related with, this thing seems to be something you're kind of holding close to your chest. And the main reason for that is you get this very similar sensation, this very similar feeling in your stomach, a strange feeling that you haven't felt since well into your childhood, well into your past, back when you were accused of murder.
Uh-oh.
You feel guilty for having taken up the stone, even though it's yours. You feel it's yours, but you feel like nobody can help you with this. This is your burden to bear, and you and Zelby kind of become a bit more in this regard, just related to this specific thing. It seems like every time Zell engages with you about this, probably not too much, because when we get to Zell, you'll see that he's actually a bit busy. You are very closed off. Dreams get worse for you in the very early portion, once you're back in your bed in your home. Cardiff's still banging around in the living room. But Lena's a nice addition. She's been managing to keep Cardiff's mess down.
Somebody has to.
But what you remember seeing, what you see in these initial early dreams, is a form in the maelstrom with you, haunting you, hovering over you. But when you fight it, when you feel so pressured that you have to fight it, and you lance it with your trident, you look at the face of the person you're killing with your trident, and it's Tullius. It's the father of Rayella.
Yes. The one I was accused of murdering.
Correct. But you feel yourself doing it. And you start to kind of wonder if you didn't do it.
No! That would be the worst. It's killing me. Now, I do have one question for you at this point, if you don't mind. Would I know that I've been cursed, or would I just think something's going on?
So that was actually the next stage.
Okay, sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, it's okay.
And just one more thing, I guess, since I'm already interrupting you. You said like the stone. Did you mean like that blue orb? Is that what you're calling the stone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Orb is fine. We'll just call it orb from here on in. The thing that you kind of focus on is that when you first got the stone, you first kind of realized that there was a problem here. You did cast Remove Curse. You attempted to kind of banish this initial sensation from you, and it didn't work. So you start going into kind of a cloistered study, staying awake long hours. And this kind of, again, like I said, Zelbor is a lot more busy than we'll get to that. But he does seem to kind of retract away from Mel because Mel becomes more focused, intent on figuring out what this is, staying up long hours, not sleeping at all, in an attempt to try and kind of banish whatever this feeling or sensation is. And the nights that you do get sleep, the dream changes. It changes between just chaos in the maelstrom to, feeling a rush of glee and euphoria as you impale Tullius and then rape his daughter. Feelings of just a strange sense of guilt, hiding guilt as Kavat, calls you forth as this guilty party. But in your head, you recall what happened. You know how it went. You know you didn't do it. You just feel like something is tormenting you. And so you reflect deeper on that during that middle month. And towards the end of your reflection, you finally make a breakthrough. In your dream, you're able to pull enough consciousness forth and remember what was good before then, your relationships with these people before it all went crazy, before the world kind of shattered around you. And the thing that kind of brings you forward, in essence, is actually two things: a voice, a song. And you're not sure who's singing it. You're not sure if it's Zelvor. You're not sure if it's Rayella. You're not sure if it's something else. But the breakthrough brings you to what it actually is. And the first thing that was mentioned to you when you picked up the orb was that this entity, this Devunray, was with you. And it seems that the song comes from it, this entity of waves, this being of pure water. And as you start to grow kind of closer to it, you start to realize pure malice and hatred. And you realize that the curse that you are infected with, that taints your entire soul, is much stronger than something that you are capable of dealing with. Hawk comes to the house every so often and asks you for advice, and you go through the motions. Zelvor attempts to continue, your friendship, and you go through the motions. And Cardiff and Lena, prance about the house, doing as they do, and you interact with them, going through the motions. But during the last month, you're starting to kind of realize that it's really maybe not that bad. You have your friends, and they're trying to pull you through it. But you think that the solution to this curse might be simply solved with a song, or might be something that is harder still to deal with.
Do I have to come to terms with my feelings for Zelvor?
That's going to be roleplay.
Oh God.
Your feelings for Zelvor, like
Yeah, exactly.
Lost?
Like,
Just
yeah.
keep in mind, I have Dimension Door.
No, you can just get out quick. Oh yeah. No, I was just joking. I was trying to lighten it up. But no, what I'm going to interrupt you again real quick. You said that the person that's with me when I feel the orb, I couldn't remember the name you said. Can you type that in? Sweet.
done
Okay.
and done.
I'd never be able to spell that. So. All right, thanks.
And I don't know how familiar you are with older school D&D, but if you know what a water veiled assassin is,
I played older school, but my memory is not the best. So I don't ever remember running into one of those.
okay. Did you ever play Elemental Evil?
I played the video game. That's a really cool.
I don't know
video
if they're in
game.
there.
But yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know if they're in there.
I don't think there's a good picture on the internet. Let's find out.
I doubt it.
So I really think that a song would actually make things better. Is this some special song, epic song?
You're not sure. You just feel like it might, again, the nature of the problem is so mysterious. It might be something that could just go away with, a cheerful song. or it could be something that is much harder to solve. Do you see the picture on the screen?
I do. Let me just close up my character sheet. Ooh, wow, that's cool.
A water-veiled assassin is what the form that you keep seeing basically kind of looks like that. All right. Any questions?
Oh man. So I guess in character when we're playing at some time, if I
Again,
decide to, I could talk to Zell about it.
it's entirely your character, so you can do
Yeah.
as you please. But like for the last this backstory portion, you've been kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think that's what my character would do, probably, and probably try to keep a lot of it to himself until maybe he figured out there was something he couldn't deal with, and then
Until critical mass.
yeah, and then I'd just explode.
Also,
You know what? I kind of think Zell, being around me, would kind of think something fishy was going on with Malik.
Fishy.
you'll realize you're going to realize here in a second why Zelbor didn't really care.
I know. I'm just I had to throw that joke out. I've been waiting the entire time to say Zelbor, something fishy's going on. All right. Anyways, very
Zach
good
is
though. I like
literally
this.
on the edge of heading to that, and
Zach is-
he'll do it.
Yeah.
He'll pet
All
that cat. Zelbor. So you arrive back in town, and not much for the goings on of the people here. Not that I can remember you having any kind of attachment to anything that's really happened so far, except for maybe Mel and his current plight. You start to fall back into the routines of old. You start to fall back into trying to kind of make a name for yourself. Back to performing. Back to what you enjoy. Sound about right?
I mean, possibly a little research on the side, just about Cardiff stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. You still kind of trying to understand a bit more about Cardiff, to be sure. But the thing that kind of pulls you deeper and away from the group is a woman, a tiefling woman, who says she has seen you before. She plays an instrument as well, and seems to be quite the gifted player of the mandolin. And the two of you kind of start working together in tandem, playing till the late hours of the night, every day, the sixth day, spending a lot of time away. And when you and Mel kind of engage each other, you come to a point very quickly, knowing now that you have this kind of person that you can go to and talk to, not really engaging as deeply as you know you should. And you feel guilty about it, but you feel guilty about it in her arms and in her bed, or playing an instrument with her up on the stage. And the two of you in her bed playing an instrument. The instrument is the skin flute.
The organ.
Or wait, what would it be? Yeah, I guess it would be the organ.
It's the bagpipes. Come on.
Oh, right. I don't know how female. I'm trying to figure out how female anatomy can be related to a musical instrument, but I'm not sure.
Mariachi, or
the one-string guitar?
No, what was that? What are those things? They're like the clapping things.
It's already too sexist. We got to move on.
Yeah.
We gotta so yeah, as I'm trying to point out, is you and this woman become very enamored with one another. And her name's Ifuna, Ifuna, and you remember that name early on, and she tells you she, in smaller towns, wears a guise. She typically will change her appearance so as not to frighten the locals. And you remember her indeed from the town of Hilton, where she played.
She was the elf lady at the piano, right?
Yeah. She plays the mandolin when she doesn't have a piano at her service. She's capable of playing other instruments, to be sure, but she does seem to favor the mandolin. You and her get along very, very famously. And again, when I say that, I mean famously. you start to become noticed by the Council of Lords, who request you to perform for them your love ballads and your dirges, the two of you kind of composing even the highest highs and the lowest lows. This kind of becomes something that they really recognize, like, and start to enjoy about your playing together. Because yeah, exactly, that's 100% it. That's 100% it. For those of you who can't read that, Fleetwood Mac
Wow.
is the analogy that I will
Thank
go with
God.
from here on. It's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You're very good together. Very good. Musically, at least. You guys do have, your tips, especially about Mel. It seems that she stays a bit of time over at your place, and she doesn't get along too well with Mel because of his current state. And he doesn't even seem to notice her. You remember when you introduced her to him, he just kind of maneuvered around the conversation and went about his business. You also notice about Mel is that he starts to kind of just ignore his followers who keep coming to him, requesting him to perform services at his temple. Mel seems very cloistered. And you are worried about him. I mean, naturally, I'm not going to say that you wouldn't be. He's your best friend, and has been for some time. But the problem is that you don't know how to kind of measure out between the two. Like, you're having such a great time with Funa, but your best friend is kind of falling apart, and you don't know why, and he won't tell you. Your 3 months goes by pretty excitingly, but halfway through it, you're able to kind of muster up enough money to actually purchase another house, kind of closer to the center of town in the Noble District, where merchants should be purchasing their houses. But you have reached such a state of celebrity that they're basically granting you a house close to them. And you take
Right now, I'm charging rent.
Yeah, and you take it, but again, it's not so much a place that you go to very often. It's a place you spend most of your time with Funa. But it seems Mel is kind of staying in the old house with Cardiff and Lena. Cardiff doesn't seem intent on leaving at all. It seems like he is very focused on his task, which has caused the living room to become an absolute mess. And again, something that Funa has definitely complained about. Initially, she saw it and she was very intrigued, just like you were. And you, from time to time, will pick up a book and attempt to try and kind of muster, enough attention to kind of try and figure out what's going on with Cardiff. But it's like trying to study trigonometry while, you're living your life working a job. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the extracurricular activity you don't have enough time for.
Basically, my life as it stands right now.
Right, exactly. You want to do other things, but you can't because you're busy with everything else. So that said, you have two houses. You kind of stay with your friends here and kind of live in the noble house there. Your house isn't too far either from a house that's been set up for one Hawk Meredith, who is a noble and has been granted vassal status under the Duke Adalbert. So you know your neighbor. Not too bad a choice there in that regard. And you also know that he's a cop, so your neighborhood's safe.
I also know that I'm going to make unseen servants go over to his house every once in a while and stack books around his bed.
Of course you are.
I forgot to mention Crane Manor. That was definitely a part in the in-between time before the shackling, and that was a good time. That was a damn good time. Gelatinous cube, I remember. But that said, at the end of this 3-month time, the thing that's going to be kind of pulling you together, which we'll get to again next session probably, the crux, the thing that kind of throws the group together again. Before that time, you're starting to kind of give up mentally. not emotionally, but mentally, on Mel and Cardiff and Lena and their problems. It seems that the more reliable member of your group is the person who's always been reliable in your group, and that's Hawk. It just seems that Mel's kind of fallen in with Cardiff in the crazy department. Not that deep, though. Not that deep. He's just a little perturbed. That's all.
Right.
Any contentions? Anything you think that would be different, or how you would play him differently? I mean, do you think he would kind of do anything differently than I said he would, or did I get you
I
entirely
can
wrong?
totally see Zell giving up the group for the girl,
Um,
at least temporarily.
yeah, the only thing, I can't really think of a huge amount that I'd probably change from that. The only thing I would change is definitely he would try to at least more, like, it would be more than trying. He would actually set aside a little time every single week to actually study
Sure.
time magic. Like, that's the only thing, is because that was a huge
I would say
thing for a
that
while, but it might taper off a little bit towards the end if he
that's
was
what I'm
going
saying.
crushed.
Like, so you initially start with like a vigor to try and figure out what's going on with both of your friends, and you spend a lot of time at that house. Then you get this new house, right? And more gigs in higher like end areas. So you start doing that more often, and then you realize, oh no, it's the day of Dan. It's the end of the 6th day. I've got to try and fit some time in to deal with this. So you spend the whole day just working at Arch of Time. What's going on with Mel? Come on, talk with me. Help me out with this. And then you start to realize that the day is kind of ending up fruitless. And then the next 6th day, you end up saying, maybe I'll just go out there in the evening. I'll have dinner with Mel. Hopefully that'll cheer him up. And it does, to be sure. But it does seem like he might be just going through the motions, too. You're not sure. Mel's never really been a good deceiver. But he is a charismatic fish man. But I mean, you don't feel like your friendship's waning. You just feel like in this one regard, this whenever it comes to this one topic, the orb, you just kind of get blocked off. Like he does not want to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And you know that from conversations with Cardiff and Lena that he's spending a lot of time focusing in on that orb.
It also would have been awkward when I told the Spoona that I was a virgin, but still, you know.
Well, you're not anymore, my friend. Not anymore. Okay, so we've got Boo, we got Hawk, we got Mel, we got Zell as set. So I'm going to discuss a bit of what Cardiff has been doing and a bit of what Lena has been doing, and then we'll discuss a bit of the goings on in town or the city, and then we'll be discussing next session. Okay, so here we go. Cardiff has been drawing a lot more on the walls and has been kind of going through a rigmarole of just like a planned day of scratching the wood down to clean and drawing in different portions, rewriting and redrawing, and just causing a big problem in town. Definitely affecting the resale value of the house.
I knew I should have studied that magical cleaning spell.
In a couple of cases, and Mel probably the more than likely culprit of seeing what's happening here, but a number of times you see strange kind of goings on with Cardiff in that he starts to manifest like duplicates of himself, but not like full duplicates, like ghost chrono entities that are kind of just generated from thin air. And it seems that they have conversations. He talks to himself a lot, but not like a crazy old man, like a crazy old chronomancer. He talks to past, future, or possibly current, but at the same time, but in a different alternate universe version of himself. This doesn't happen like a lot, but it definitely happens more often than not at all. And it's definitely cause for, concern. He does seem to be kind of losing his mind, though. And during that last month, he actually slips into a coma.
Oh no.
Completely unconscious. And Mel, despite your kind of self-deprecating kind of station, you spent a lot of time in that last month just caring for him and making sure that he's okay. But he's completely comatose. And Lena helps you in this regard too. Throughout the time, Lena has been making trips during the 6th day to 2 locations. And she tells you where she's going before she goes, Mel. But she's been going to 2 locations. She's been going to the Temple of Averia in the city of Stormlock. And she's been going to visit someone who she regards as a close member or friend of the family, the Margrave of the city, the Margrave of the kingdom, rather, Lord Dagger, Dagher. Sorry. And you think nothing of it. Again, you are focused on your own problems. But she, that's where she's been going. And when you ask her, kind of raise up the curiosity to ask her what she's been doing, out and about, she tells you she's been praying, and she's also been consorting with her friend, trying to learn a little bit more about what she can do to help stop the problems that have been raised by you unleashing this shame. Because she doesn't know much about it other than where it was. She stays pretty cloistered. She stays with Cardiff. She seems to kind of regard him as a guardian, and during his comatose stage, she kind of loses it. She loses it a little emotionally and kind of falls into a Mel-like state. So
nice. Now I'm an adjective.
The old Mel-like state. If someone's depressed, it's a Mel. Fair.
Nice.
If someone throws a pun, it's a Zell. Good. Coming up with good times.
If it's Dagger, it's no, that doesn't work.
Dag her. I get you. I see what you're doing there. But yeah, that's where it would end at the end of the 3 months. So Lena and Mel are sad. Cardiff is comatose. Hawk is the captain of the watch,
baby.
And is doing a great job of it, especially with the assistance of the Fellhoods. Now, again, you aren't capturing and locking up Fellhoods, and they are still thieving, but they are a bit more lawful than they were prior to the death of Dante and the rise.
Liberated, right?
Right, the rise of Iden Blackhand. That's that. Let's see. I said we were going to talk about our
Cardiff and then Lena.
Okay, and then kind of where we're kind of coming to where the crux of the story will be going and where we'll be heading on forward. Before I get to that part, though, I do want to kind of just point out what the cover picture is about and kind of explain what we're looking at. You guys have been playing with me for about a year. You've never really played an older game. So there's a deeper lore that's kind of present from older games with other players. In olden times, there was a game that we ran. Me as a DM, Dieter Ihorn, who you may have met or seen. He hasn't played much in the West Marches game as of late, but he was one of the players in that game. A friend of mine named Tom Smith, who is one of my dearest friends, but unfortunately we've kind of fallen apart. He lives in Oregon. Really cool job, but one of my greatest just D&D friends, and just friends in general from the past. And Jeff Smith, who is actually in the West Marches game and is slowly starting to pick up. You may have seen him post. He hasn't built a character yet, but he did post in the little throwback inquiry I threw out on the forum there. Jeff is most known for playing a character named Kilgore Orkbasher, who ascended to become the god of the dwarves. So, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing,
That's
right?
pretty cool.
Oh shit, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
A little bit of
So-
notoriety, yeah.
If you ever worship Beldendar, you worship Jeff Smith, a guy who is a butcher who works at like a meat market and is the coolest guy ever. Jeff is one of the best role players I've ever played with, and I hope you get the chance to play with him in the future. But so it was Jeff, it was Tom wasn't actually in the game. He was just referencing the game. Sorry. Rewind a bit. Jeff, Dieter, Bobby, who's a friend, I guess. Jeff, Bobby, and I can't remember for the life of me who that fourth person was. Might have been Brent. I know Ryan was in there for a little bit. So anyways, the main characters are the ones I've already mentioned. Jeff, Tom, and Dieter. Bobby is also kind of important. This campaign took place in a province known as Meridia, which some of you might have heard of. Meridia is to the north of the continent, and Meridia is actually run by a group of humans who have defiled themselves, corrupted themselves to an old god named Ala-Nusero, the dark god of sorcery and death. According to the Atavian tradition of religion, Atavius and Ashtar were two gods that were tricked by a human, their first created human, to kind of come to a feast hall for the human, but they didn't know that the other was invited as well. So when they both arrived, being law and chaos, they naturally came to a fight. And during their engagement, they released parts of themselves, and Ala-Nusero, or rather Anaya-Nomen, first man, took their power and became a deity himself. In doing so, these two gods created the law of death. They sent him away into a plane of death where souls go when they die, and the law of death was created. The law of death being kind of a fusion between law, being that it's something that has to happen, but also chaos. Things have to be disassembled or destroyed or ended, because chaos in your own head isn't so much just a jumble of what is or what couldn't be. It's kind of the just destruction of what is order and balance. And in this campaign setting, according to this tradition, chaos in essence is destruction, and law is creation and community. So this new god was the creator of the law of death, according to their tradition. And so they worship this guy. And the reason why they worship this guy is because man had the power. So it's kind of a cult of man, really, in that if you strive yourself, you can be powerful. But the problem with that is you're dealing with a bunch of other people who are also of that mentality. And that's the main issue with the Meridian culture, is that everybody wants to be on top. It's capitalism at its finest. They're run by a senate, and in that senate, Duron Balcard, a character played by Dieter, the character you see there with wings, vied for a position within the Senate. Senate was 13 people, total of 13 individuals, and Duron Balcard gained that position as senator by killing his mentor, a senator, and then basically killing everyone who dissented against him in the town, so that the vote would sway his way. Now, murdering another citizen yourself is a crime in Meridia. You cannot kill another Meridian because that is an assault against, the nature of the people. I mean, you can't do that. That would be wrong. But you can have other people do it. And Jeff's character in that game was a entity spawned of just malicious magic that had no problems inflicting its wrath against the people of Meridia. None whatsoever. But his character was pretty much ruled by a character from the past, played by Tom, a character named Tobias Nernon. A lot of people in Meridia would worship demons or other powers instead of worshiping Ala-Nusero, because these powers would actually give you power, whereas worshiping Ala-Nusero, not really so much. So that's why this entity that spawned was kind of controlled by it. Duron kind of corrupted it with this demon's presence, and made it stronger in that right. The mentor that he killed was a guy named Gideon. name might sound familiar to you already. When Gideon died, he kind of came back to it through rites, and kind of continued to be a senator, despite Duran also becoming a senator for the same portion of the province. Big old political mess. But at the time, the Republic was kind of being ruled over by a Demilich, one senator who kind of had power over the other senators by sheer strength of presence. The Demilich's name was Tok, who eventually ascended to godhood, but was only ascended to godhood because he was destroyed. He was destroyed because Duran and his retinue, Duran, Teffington, Grumnar, and whoever character Brent was fucking playing. I don't remember what the character's name was. He wasn't important. He was just there. Assailed the Demilich and defeated it and destroyed it. And when its essence kind of fled the material plane, it was so strong it took over the goddess of magic's presence. But yeah, the main point is that Gideon, the Gideon that you know, and have released to your histories, for what you can tell, kind of moved on past that point in history, and you saw more of it in detailed stories from what you could find of Meridia. Gideon the Worm That Walks, Gideon the Assembled, Gideon the Gideon Legion, Gideon Illuminus, Gideon the Lightbringer, Gideon Albacoris, the Shame of Albacoris, was a senator in Meridia and ruled over them for some time until he was quote unquote destroyed by Duran Balcard, who later ascended to become the Demon Prince of Corruption, and Teffington, who later on became the Demon Prince of oh god, what is he? Is Vanity? Vanity. Got it. And yeah, also Alacia, the Demon Princess of Lust. The people you see in front of you, with the exception of one of them, Gideon, ascended to some form of divinity. So, what do you think Gideon wants more than anything?
To
A
ascend.
brand new car!
He was what's behind door number 1.
Okay.
Ascending to
You are correct. You're 100% correct.
immortality.
100% correct. Correct. So, we don't know where he went. We don't know what he's capable of, other than some pretty powerful fucking spells that we saw when we initiated him. And learning more about him, it's going to be hard-pressed where you're at. You may need someone to help you out of the city to lead you to somewhere where you can find more information. That's entirely up to you. Hawk, you have a couple of key plot points, but most of them are outside of the city, as I've mentioned. So the Ragnall's Grove,
Right.
potentially leading out towards either Varhuin, and then up through Varhuin into Darg, the province of the Meridians, to try and learn more about them in their own native land. Or perhaps traveling to Osiria, which is closely tied to Darg, and learning more about the Meridians and their people in that close to their native land. You could also travel to the kingdom of Sarrowgate. The people of Albacoris are the kings there. You could learn more information about them there. But in whatever method that you choose, you're going to be leaving the city. The city is yours. It's your base of operations. You are its captain of the watch, but you know that there are measures that need to be taken if you're not only to protect the city, but also possibly the world.
All right.
What has been brought forth. Mainly for me, like, I think most of you guys have noticed, and I kind of going into reflection mode, you've noticed that my games don't really take on like a huge sprawling like world campaign. We've stayed in the same province entirely for the entirety of our game and the entirety of the West Marches game. In my mentality, I kind of go with a 4th ed, but also 3.5, 3 edition kind of mentality. You're really not important until you've passed 10th level. Like, you don't really matter, and it shouldn't be stretched to a big kind of world sprawling story until that point. But that's where we are right now.
Yeah, makes total sense.
I will say one thing though, too, just to kind of put it out there so you have it. Zell, if Funa has access to a sky ship, your betrothed, no, your female companion has access to a sky ship, flying ship. So if you want in the first session to kind of lean towards that relationship and try and securing that, that might be something you might want to do. So,
If you want,
huh?
have you met me?
I mean, yeah, it's a sky ship.
Have you met me? Nice.
So that said, any way you exit out of it, you're going to try and find someone to help you in a guide form. I'm going to just tell you that Deus Ex Machina, that's going to be Boo.
Okay.
And
Dun, dun, dun.
Zach, if you have any questions about the world outside of the city of Stormloft, the kingdom of Stormloft, I am your repository for knowledge. I am if you have any questions that you want to know before the game kind of begins, just float me a question and I will answer that question. I will make sure that you have access to, or you should already have access to, the province map, the world map rather.
I do not.
Okay. I think you have
The
DM
only
rights
thing
in the other game.
I do have DM rights in the other game though, so yeah, I have access to fucking everything.
I'll make sure that it's up and on there so you can look at it.
Okay, yeah, I know where to find everything there. You
Okay.
don't have to worry about that shit. I've gone through it several times, and I'm actually pretty familiar with the whole map. You know what I mean? And I've read a lot of the stuff that you've written because I had a lot of free time for like the 2 weeks that I was unemployed.
Who is the same way though? He will know a lot about this shit.
Yeah,
So-
I've made him several hundred years old.
Okay.
So he's been around for a long time, but just he doesn't care enough to do anything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's like he's chaotic neutral, so like he doesn't care enough to make a big challenge in the world or like step outside of his like little fucking comfort place. And I wrote a lot of
I
it
see it.
already.
I see it. I'm already looking at it.
You reading it?
Yeah. Oh, I've
Tell
already
me-
read most of it.
Okay, tell me if anything sucks.
No,
I
it's
can
good so
change-
far. The only
Yeah.
thing I want you to change is just change it, like the character in the edit section, just change character name to just Boo. You'll
Oh,
notice
yeah,
that
I'll do
everybody
that.
else is listed
Yep,
as
yep,
Hawk,
my bad.
Mel. Yeah. It's okay. Just, it makes it look nicer. I don't know. It's good.
It should be changed now.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Rotating it back to the crux of the campaign, the main point of the campaign. Why Stormloft may not be the best place to stay. The Council of Lords, through Wright, have basically tried to kind of secure the kingdom of Stormloft and protect it against threats, such as the Ogre Mage, such as the Blue Giant Jormungandr, such as all of these things that have kind of risen up throughout the last years, the couple of years. But they've been unable to do so. So they have basically sworn away the council and bestowed the power of king back to House Eversole, the rightful king of the kingdom. And the reason why this has been done is because a military presence is required and a martial law needs to be maintained. A lot of people in the city are not okay with this because the Council of Lords is basically what has kept structure to the city, not so much the kingdom, the city proper, for some time. And the thing that you'll notice mainly once the Council of Lords kind of places itself into power, or places itself out of power rather, is that the dwarfs retreat back into their kingdom in the mountains. Barbagesi goes missing. The gnome prince goes missing. No one can find him. And the Margrave leaves the city. Lena spending more time at your house now that she has no one to go visit. But the Margrave returns back to the Empire, back to the seat of power for the Empire, back to House Omeyasa's reigning province of Brissalwell. It seems that the city becomes more structured over the military being its defense, and not so much the watch. A lot of the people under your charge, Hawk, are actually not really promoted, but kind of side shifted to the military and out of the watch. The watch's job becomes basically it's like what happens to police when the National Guard enters in. You are no longer important or required. And the idea of joining the military for what you see as a non-cause, because no sightings of these creatures, you dealt with the Ogre Mage, and you've made appeals to the council before it disbanded to try and rectify this problem, but no one. It all fell on deaf ears, and it seems that you're kind of because of this military usurpation, rather, just taking of power, you're kind of freed up to do what you feel is necessary. And again, it's entirely up to you what you do, though. You do know that you have a couple of ideas of what you can do. And I didn't actually, pulling myself back to Mel, I didn't really focus on what I meant by it could be ended by a song. Apologies. Let me get back to that point, because that's a kind of a solid point, and you asked about it, and I still kind of just moved on. I apologize.
That's all right.
You think that it could be ended by a song sung by a specific person. You're pretty sure it's not Zell.
Darn it.
Do you get my meaning?
Yes, and I know it's not Ifuna or whatever her name
It's
is.
certainly not Afuna. It's
Hey,
someone
she has
from
a
your
great
past.
voice, though.
Right. Like possibly Raella.
Right. So you know that you need to find your trackless tribe. You know that if that were the case, you would need to go and find your roots. It may be the case that you need to appeal to your group and possibly a guide, because again, the trackless are just that. They don't stay in one place. They're not something that even you, because you're definitely not a trackless scout. You're not someone who was able to find the people. You were the voice of them, the paladin, the guardian, the knight. But
You were a nice boy.
You are a nice boy. You might be able to. You might need a guide to help you find even them. And before you even ask, Boo would definitely be familiar with the trackless's kind of bearings and might serve as a strong guide to that. Again, whatever question that you ask, whatever goal that you move towards, the guide to that will be Boo. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. Any questions?
A lot of good stuff.
Okay. So as a group, either through form
How much
use...
did I charge rent for Mel and them staying in my place?
Now remember, you bought that house with Mel, right? The old house?
I think he paid for most of it, but I don't remember.
Mel's church is able to fund however much you ask. That is another thing I wanted to point out too. Boo, do you have magic items or no?
I have not picked any equipment because I didn't know how you wanted me to do equipment.
Should be a
The only
section of
thing
the Dungeon Master's Guide that talks about equipment purchasing for higher levels.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to
I
just
know.
follow that straight or not.
Yeah, I'm going to follow the DMG for that.
Okay.
I cannot remember what page it's on, and I need you to find out what it is before I move forward, though.
Can you find that for me? Because I
Yeah, I'm
bet you'll
working
find
at
it
it.
faster than me.
I'm giving it a shot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have everything else set up other than
Okay.
the fucking equipment. I just forgot to do that.
Yeah, no problem. Hold on a second here.
What race is your character? Elf?
Yeah.
Man, you're my new best friend then.
We have elf, a
bud.
half elf. No humans. There's no humans in this party. I think I
What
would
the
just
fuck
talk
is
about
Hawk?
you guys.
Hawk is no longer human.
He's
Yeah,
half
he's
human.
half elf.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, half elf.
He's a half breed.
Yeah, you probably
Dirty
don't like him.
mudblood.
All right. So for 11th level, you will start with 5,000 gold pieces plus
That's it. I'm just fucking with you.
what's 10 times 250?
10
500?
times.
Oh no, 2,500.
So 7,500 total experience or gold, rather. 2 uncommon magic items of your choice, and your normal starting equipment in addition to that.
Oh, and my normal starting equipment in addition to that? Fuck yeah.
7,500 gold pieces, 2 uncommon magic items, and normal starting equipment. For the purposes of build, you can purchase any common magic items, so that'd be potions and shit. And you can purchase any uncommon or uncommon or rare consumable magic items. Cost-wise,
Oh, consumable?
yes. You get 2 uncommon magic items of your choice. Those can be whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Purchase-wise, with that 7,500, you can purchase any consumable magic items that are of a rare quality or lower. And that said, too, I will work with you. Don't pick a bow for your uncommon magic item. Do not. I've got something planned for that.
I figured. I wasn't going to do a bow or armor for it. I wanted to do, like, special items.
Like boots and shit.
Yeah. Some
Cloak
shit like
of
that.
elvish kind. Yeah.
Some stupid shit like that.
Okay. So, yeah, rare consumable
Racers
magic
of
items
Archery
cost-
is going to be one.
For sure. Smart.
Thank you.
When it comes to purchasing magic items, a common magic item costs 100 gold pieces. A uncommon magic item costs 500 gold pieces, and a rare one costs 5,000 gold pieces. So if you wanted like a rare elixir or potion, pretty much do you in. But that's what you're looking at currency-wise. A lot to play with in that regard. For everybody else who is
second item, John's going to be winged boots.
okay, and then I will do your bow up
It's gonna be Icarus.
because I have a bow plan for that.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll be a bow of -10 accuracy.
For the rest of you, I just want to double check. Do you have at least 2 uncommon magic items?
I don't know if they're uncommon. I'd have to look them up, but I'm sure at least one of them is.
You have a +1 trident, right?
I have a +2 trident, actually.
That's a rare magic item.
Yeah, so I have that one, and I have the decanter of endless water.
You're good.
And I have a couple other, I have some minor things. I think maybe I don't know.
Zelbor, what do you have?
I have a Hat of Disguise and a Wand of Magic Missile.
2 uncommon magic items. And Hawk, you have a legendary magic item in the form of the dice.
Right, and then I have a Cloak of Protection and a Ring of Protection.
Okay, so you guys are more than good. Okay, great.
I
Good.
want to get better armor at some point.
Okay, purchasing magic.
Yeah, I also have +1 armor, a chainmail armor.
Okay.
Forgot about that.
Well, again, purchasing magical items is a rarity. But yeah, are you okay with that picture for Boo?
Yeah, dude. I might recolor it a little bit in Photoshop.
It's an older
That's
one.
cool with you.
Yeah,
is
it's all
that
you.
an elf or a half elf?
It's
He's an elf.
Cool.
It's
Well,
definitely
that's
an
a
elf.
winner.
I just like want to fuck with the colors in the outfit a little bit.
Perfectly
You know
fine.
what I mean? That's
I
what
can
figured.
redraw them too. I plan on redrawing it. Like
Yeah,
in
I mean,
doing
or if you just
Boo.
want to redraw it, but like that's pretty
Plan.
close to what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Maybe like a hood. That would be
Okay.
the only addition.
Like a fell hood.
Yeah, dude. If you're reading the backstory, right? So that'll give
Yeah.
you a kind of an idea of what his ideal look is. Maybe not where he is when these guys meet him.
To be sure, I'll probably draw him during the next week. I've got
Take your
I
time.
get to work
no
from
rush.
home for most of it, so that should be good. Okay. So on direction, work as a team to kind of pick that out, focus on that, post it in forums, or just message me in Facebook Messenger, however you want to do it.
Can I ask a out of character kind of question?
Yeah.
So it seems like our big goal as a group is to defeat this, Sorrow of Albacoris thingy. We're not nearly strong enough to do that, right? So it's going to be a progression to get us there.
Yeah, correct. So there's other things that should be engaged with. Again, you don't know what it's planning or what it's doing or even where it is. You just know that it is in the world somewhere. At current, the things that you're kind of focusing on that could be goals for you. Mel's problem. The swords of the Dias Saints.
Right.
And that's pretty much it.
Right.
I narrowed it down to a little bit there. I know that right now Zell and Boo are not really like driving points. Most of Boo's kind of end engagement is going to be dealt with by the fact that fell hoods are no longer really a problem.
Yeah, my character is gonna be pretty fucking aimless. So
Right,
like,
but
looking for a job, but like I'm chaotic neutral, so I'll commit to that thing 100%. You know what I mean?
but I do have plans for you.
Oh yeah, no.
Nonetheless.
Further down the line, fuck with him however you want. For right now, like he's just trying to chill.
Got it.
I feel.
Get in there.
I think we really have to deal with that Zell problem. I mean, letting this woman get in the way of our friendship.
Hey, I did not let her get in the way of the friendship. You let a stone get in the way of the friendship.
Oh, now you're blaming me. All right,
Not
just go
blaming
off and have fun with your girlfriend. That's fine.
Hawk crosses his arms and shakes his head, and
Guys, work this
And
out.
doesn't
You work it
realize
out
that his
amongst
bed is
yourselves.
now surrounded.
Yeah, but would she jump inside of a gelatinous cube for you? I bet not.
She already did
Oh,
it twice.
God.
What'd
she already
you
did it.
I said she already did it twice.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know what you call gelatinous cubing, but I don't want to know.
Did you gelatinous cubing? New sex term.
Really?
Oh, man.
That's why I
Classy.
wasted rent money 1 month.
Yeah, and then he's trying to charge me rent money. Well, you're just off gallivanting with the rich people, and I see how it is when you become famous. You just forget your old friends.
Fame didn't change me. Actually, yes, it did. It changed me a lot. Get out
It
of here.
changed you a lot.
I'm so changed right now.
That's good. I like it. It gives us a little undertone of something. We'll be like two people, that are going to get a divorce, but they're not quite there yet. We'll just be nagging each other.
Hey, I've got the paperwork all drawn up, man. You just need to take time to sign it.
You know what? You know what I bet's going to happen is like we're going to go on an adventure, right? We're going to go somewhere, and it's going to be like Ifuna's going to be following us around, and we have to keep her alive now.
Oh, it's your Yoko.
Yeah, she'll break the entire group up.
You
And
poor
you'll
guy.
think she's all cool,
Breaking up the band.
Next thing you know, we'll be on the Rolling Stones cover. She's completely clothed. I'm just naked and curled up next to her.
Right.
Exactly.
You need to draw that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, it was
You guys, or just have all four of you guys walking across the street.
there we go.
Right. Awesome.
What level are we supposed to be? We're
11.
level
11.
Okay, yeah, just making sure.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Oh no, that
Oh.
is pretty cool. If you could like Photoshop our heads on that album cover.
John, this is a question that you don't have to say yes to, but just out of curiosity. Just because it has been a 3-month time period, could I have possibly swapped out one of my spells for another one?
Deal.
I could do that? Okay.
Oh,
Because I was just thinking I might want to drop one and pick up Identify.
Well, that's a good idea.
I am done with everything I needed to get off my chest and note-wise where we're at. Now, I will note from what you've gathered, one last note, from what you've gathered about Vazriel magic and the kind of place of these entities in your engagements, you have seen a red one, you've seen a blonde one, you've seen a black one. Red, blood, would relate to air. Blonde, yellow would relate to yellow bile, fire. Black bile would relate to earth. Phlegm, or greenish blue, has yet to be seen, and that one relates to water.
Nice.
So
I know
another
where I'm going.
mysterious portion of it, and again, that's another plot point too. Mel's problem, Hawk's problem. Those are the two kind of situations that you have. The nebulous problem of the shame, and Zell, you kind of still do have a problem. I do want to actually point that one out too. Cardiff's mumblings and ramblings aren't really kind of coming to any focus. But if I can have Dan here at the beginning of the game, at the start of at next session, I will certainly ensure that he kind of points you in a direction, because I have one for you.
Okay, yeah, I was figuring there was going to be something.
Delivery method is not me. I don't want it to be me. I want it to be Dan. But there is something there, possibly. And then, Boo, you're new. I'm still fleshing you out.
Don't worry, I'm gonna have a pretty fleshed out backstory up to this point, and then I want you to do with him as you will. Is that fair?
Deal. I think again, the reason why I wanted the cliche of a brother rival is to kind of give me a villain to deal with.
I gave you two.
Good deal.
Did you read? I gave you two.
Well, I kind of stopped halfway. I got to talking.
Oh, dude, no worries. But I gave you two villains with different strengths. One's a fucking smart guy, and the other is a chick who's actually, I made her stronger than Boo, but not as good with a bow.
Okay.
So you can fuck with that how you will.
And I mean, again, you have another thing too. If you want to, like, your job type in Stormloft has been kind of similar in styling to Asilius and Kieran. So if you want to bring them up, I don't know. I mean, you don't have much information about them, but they're assholes. You fought them that one time.
Right.
One's a master boyer, and the other one is a master gunsmith.
Right.
So entirely up to you if you want to instill them in there. But I did go through most of this to kind of bring names back to your attention.
No, I like that.
It's the goal there. So we will see how that plays out in the first session. I always forget her, so I'll just deal with her at the beginning of the first session. But there was a character that you met for a moment and never really came up, but was totally important. So important that if you watch the stream right now, she's up in the top right corner, but never used her beyond short conversation, a lead that I just never got you in on. Anywho, any questions for me before I cut out?
I think I'm good.
Nope,
Good from
all
that.
good.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. And Zach?
Blowjobs or rim jobs?
I would rather have a blowjob.
Fair enough. Giving or
But
receiving?
I would rather give a rim job.
Got it.
Just can't really give a girl a blowjob.
Depends on the size of the clit.
You're always a thinker. That's a good point to end it on.